Know your name, know your name. I wanna know your Hello, name. Y'all. I really wanna get to know his name. Not just for a season like Christmas or holidays. I heard his name is Jesus, name higher than every name. And he can't be born and died for sins, which on the blame since that's the case, and what a shame. That people nowadays.
All right, we are back with So Real with Madelyn, Life at the East Texas 87. And thank you guys so much for the overwhelming support that you guys have been giving, listening to Miss Madelyn's history. And all of this is a true story, believe it or not. I know it's been like crazy to hear, but all of this is a true story. So we're going to pick up right where we left off. Went through a nasty court battle. Didn't get to see my mother, had to write her letters. And long story short, when I was 12 years old, my dad, I think, reached out to you about coming back, right? I didn't care about basically anything at that point. I think I was pretty dark time. But I didn't care about anything. So just talk about that. We didn't see each other. And then when you first get me back, because you hadn't seen me. So when you first get me back, talk about that.
Before that scenario, it was the first time I'd seen you in a few years, like seeing you, had a chance to like touch you. You were in the hospital. Your appendix had ruptured, and Gary had called me and told me, and so I, of course, jumped in my car, didn't know where I was going, and I had to leave Gabby behind because she was in school, like I couldn't take her out of school, so I came on up there and I stayed 2 days with you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And just took care of you until they were able to let you go home. But that was hard to see you there. As some of you may know, an appendix rupture is serious. Like for someone, a child's appendix to rupture, it's not uncommon, but it's dangerous. It's a poison, basically. So I already knew what I was getting into coming up there. But to see him, that small and frail and my little boo-boo, and I was like, what am I going to do? So I was like, I'm staying. And, I went sister girl, and I was able to stay a couple of days because, of course, Gary had to go to work, so benefit. And so on through that, after you recovered from there was a time where, it was like, okay, it's too much happening up that way. There's a lot going on. He's not focused. His grades are suffering. Something needs to change. And we need to get him here so we can get him a little bit more stable and get his grades up, and so he can move forward. And my goal was for you not to be a statistic. Like that was my goal. Either one of you, Gabby or Quincy. And so when he got here, my baby looked like a walking skeleton. He was very skinny. His head, y'all know my baby got a big head, right? But the way he looked, his shoulders, like it literally looked like his head was on backwards, because that's how skinny he was. And like his shoulders, it was really heartbreaking, because I was like, I got fed my baby up. So me and his grandma, Big Mama, we had a goal, honey. And we had to like tag team it, and like, okay, Quincy needs to eat. He needs some real food. He needs tender loving care, and he needs some support and prayer. And that was something that both of us could give him. So, she would have him and let, pray. Of course, he and his sister would go over there and they would spend time. And Big Mama and the way we family was a lot of the same thing. Like family's family. Like you don't let family down. You don't turn your back on family. Like family's family. So we kind of got here after a while. It took a minute, but once Big Mama and I kind of saw like the road we needed to take to get you back to where you needed to be healthy wise, and then see what it was doing to Gabby, it was it was time to work, and we just went into prayer. It was like a prayer thing. She had her own schedule and time of prayer, and I had mine, and I knew the Lord was listening because things were beginning to shift. Things were beginning to change. And but it was a rough, about a year. It was rough, but we got you back on track, and of course, you went back to Dallas. And that was a whole nother scenario there as well, because of a lot of things you were dealing with, I didn't find out about until you moved back home permanently the second time. So yeah, there's a lot of meat on those stories, but you guys, there's not enough time to tell you, about the last 30 years. It's just not enough time. But in that season, that episode of our lives, like, that was really, really hard. Gabby had to put her in counseling at the age of 3 because she was so angry, and I didn't know what was wrong with her at the time. She would just be sitting and playing and laughing one minute, and then the next minute she's breaking crayons and pencils and screaming and crying, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is wrong with my baby? So I took her to a child psychologist at the crisis center, and they were like, you can't be in here, but you can watch behind the glass, yah.
Right.
But they did a little thing with her, like I said, she was 3. So they worked with her, and I was very impressed with how they worked with her, and found the source of the problem. Basically, she was just heartbroken being separated from her brother. And so there was something that I had to deal with, and it was literally loving 2 children as much as I could in the ways that they each needed, without them feeling like I'm favoring one or the other. And there was times when that was really, really hard. But as a parent, you just have to do it. You just have to do it.
Yeah. And a lot of people didn't know, like, a lot of the behind the scenes. They literally only saw my mom, doctor me back to life with Big Mama, rest in paradise, Big Mama. But I can literally testify that if it was not for those 2 women in my life at that time, they made me care about life again.
Yeah.
My mom won't say it, but I'll go ahead and say it. I wasn't in a good headspace. Like, now I looked like what I looked like mentally. And I just didn't care no more. As a matter of fact, my father was willing to invest in, at the time, times have changed. Back then you had to pay for summer school. And I was so bad off that my dad, those who know my dad, shout out to my dad now, but back then my father was very Navy military structure. Hey man, you reap what you sow, man. You don't get the grades, you gonna just go back another year. But my dad in love looked at me, saw my situation, saw my circumstance, looked at everything I was going through, and even some of my academics. Some of it was my fault, but I won't get into it. But some of it was not. Some of it was that they were trying to make me a statistic. And so my dad offered to actually put me through summer school. And I was like, I didn't care so much about it that I was like, nah, I'd rather just go down there with my mother and I'll just repeat the grade. Because I knew already. I didn't pay attention. I don't brag about this, but I'm very charming. I'm very persuasive. And so I didn't pay attention to a lot in school. And so I was like, it's probably best that I just sit, through that grade again, because I don't remember none of it. And that's literally what I said. Everybody who's known me, I'm a realist. And I just have always spoken very bluntly. And my dad was like, boy, I can't believe that. I'm like, I let me get down there. And shout out to Miss V.
Sandra.
Miss Sandra was very instrumental. Miss Villa Sandra, man, she was very instrumental in my development and in my academics. She discovered my attention. She discovered my type of 80. And now it was then that she would speak life into me, like, Quincy, you're a genius. Like, you have to hear it over and over again. You're not going to get it just by reading it. So anyway, getting off on it, that's how she actually helps me. Shout out. She actually helped me study. Now I can study with no problem. But if it was not for my big mama, my mom, and Miss Villasana, I really don't know if I would have gotten out of high school. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Yeah. God used them. But the reason I said all that was to put things in perspective of we going to the second time. I ended up moving back with my father, and I made the conscious decision. Like this time it was me. It was like, no, I'm literally going down to stay with my mother this time. Like, and I don't care if I can't come back this time or whatever it is. I'm going to live with my mother. And I stayed. Yeah. And this time when I stayed, man, nobody knew this, but you know, mom was working, and I'm getting out. I went to Landmark, graduated on time.
Top of his class.
To the point to where my mom, anybody who knows me, my mom is very academic. She's very college. She's very get your education, you know. Yes. She had me in a position to where I literally finished at the top of my class.
Number 11.
Yeah, top 11. What else, man? I was the perfect 100 in English. I've always been able to, just write, but articulation. Shout out to my wife for that too. She helped me with my articulation. My mom helped me with that a lot, but it was impressive, and to the point to where I got a scholarship, have some grants and things like that to go to Westwood College. I ended up dropping out. She was not happy about that. But she was hot about that. But
y'all just don't understand the things that me and Miss Joyce, we took him to Dallas to get him enrolled, and that joker, yeah. Anyway, we're going to buy this.
But all of that's important because you got to realize my mom, and I'm saying this to say, I never realized that my mother didn't have. If that makes sense. I never realized the leaps that she took. You know, she did all of this on one income. No, my dad would help whenever she would ask, and I got shout out to my dad because some dads don't even do that. But she didn't put my father on child support, and I'll go ahead and say that she did not put my father on child support. So you know, it was just literal one income. We're going to talk about another episode later about the difference between co-parenting and actual single mothers. Yeah. You know, we uplift everybody, but there's a difference. You know, you co-parenting is the single mother, you doing it basically by yourself. There's one income, etc. Co-parenting, I've seen some blessed situations out of that where you got some help. The fathers in the life, y'all, boom, 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 y'all working it out together. But like I said, putting context on it, let's get to the point where basically, mom, you know, you're getting ready to, y'all seen I think it's the second episode where my mom didn't want kids. She said 50 is gonna be my time.
That's gonna be time to shine, baby.
She started working and investing, getting her savings accounts back replenished. Finally she got me graduated, twins on the way out, headed to college, and then what happens, mama?
They're alive.
Hit the like button, subscribe, and share, and tune in next week. Tune in next week to see what happens next.